Guys, I have a secret to tell you. The best goalkeepers in real life are not the best goalkeepers on Sorare. Welcome into another video on the channel. As you guys know, my name is Chris, the MLS card guy. Today, I'm going to be breaking down the Sorare scoring system so that you can get a little bit better idea of how to actually play the game, right? Because like I said in the open, not all good goalkeepers in real life are good goalkeepers on Sorare. They're different. You know, you can be a good real life goalkeeper and not necessarily rack up enough stats to be relevant on Sorare. So we're going to hop into that. This will be part one. I'm just purely going to go over the goalkeepers today and how we score the goalkeepers, and maybe a little bit to keep in mind as you move forward and you start to look for maybe a goalkeeper in the future here, move away from your commons and starting to get into a rare goalkeeper as you kind of progress up the game. So we're going to start with a goalkeeper, and then we'll work our way into defenders, midfielders, and forwards another time. But we're going to hop straight into things here. So first off, the scoring system. A lot of people don't actually know how to find the scoring system on the website. So you go up to community, go to help, and then the scoring system is kind of tucked in here. You got to go to this, under this learn the game rules tab. You're looking for how is player score calculated. So this is the actual game score, like rubric, if you will, for how they actually score these games. So when we're looking at goalkeeper, we have, first off, we're going to talk about the decisive score. So in general, we have two different ways that our players can score. We have the decisive score, and then we have, I forget what it's called actually. What are these called down here? All around score, that's right. So we have the decisive score, which is something big that your player does that contributes to winning and losing games. So as you can see, goals, assists, penalties won, clearance off the line, clean sheet, penalty save, last man tackle, all very good things to help your team win. If you score a goal, your team's got a much better chance of winning than if you didn't score that goal. If you keep a clean sheet for your goalkeeper, your team's got a much better chance of winning than if you didn't keep a clean sheet for the goalkeeper. And then obviously down here, negative impacts. If you score an own goal, red card. If you concede a penalty, if you have an error that leads to a goal, or if you concede 3 or more goals. So as we're looking at goalkeepers, we're gonna pretty much disregard goals and assists. They don't really score goals and assists. I don't think I've ever seen a keeper win a penalty before. Clearance off the line is possible, but that's not really something that the goalkeepers do. Clean sheet is obviously a big one. Penalty save is obviously a big one. And last man tackle is potentially a big one, although generally it's going to be a sweeper keeper. It just kind of depends on how Opta scores it. You're generally only going to see last man tackles for like defenders and midfielders, but occasionally you may see one of those for a goalkeeper if the offensive guy already has possession of the ball. And then on the negative side, obviously goalkeeper can score an own goal. Goalkeeper can concede a penalty. Goalkeeper can get a red card. Goalkeeper can have an error that leads to a goal, and the goalkeeper can concede 3 or more goals. So all of these are going to be in play for our goalkeeper. So realistically, what we're really focused on, because what's really repeatable out of these decisive scores is clean sheets, right? Occasionally, penalty save can be a skill that some goalkeepers do have. I know Matt Turner in New England is really, really good at saving penalties. I think he's somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 penalties saved out of 7 faced in his career, something like that. Although I think he gave up a penalty last week. So some goalkeepers are pretty good at penalty saves, but in general, you're not going to see too many penalties called to begin with. And generally, most of them are going to either be scored or just completely missed. It's pretty rare that a goalkeeper actually gets a full-on save on a penalty. So mostly what we're going to be worried about here is clean sheet for the positive side. And then on the negative side, obviously we don't want red card, own goal, penalty conceded, error leading to goal. Most of that stuff doesn't really happen for goalkeepers. Mostly what we're worried about is conceding 3 or more goals. So in general, for our goalkeeper, our decisive score is either going to be for clean sheet or we're going to concede 3 or more goals. So if you come down here, so this is the little rubric chart for the decisive score. So a lot of people don't really understand how this works. When you start off, you get a 35. So you just start, if you start the game, you're in the lineup, you get 35 points off the bat. You don't have to do anything, no points accumulated. You're just in the starting lineup, you get 35 points. Now that decisive score is either going to take us up or take us down on the little ladder here. So if we start out here and we don't concede any goals, we get a clean sheet, we're automatically up to level 1, right? So we're going to get a 60. Okay? So automatically on a clean sheet, we're going to add 25 points to our score. And the other thing it does is guarantee our score. So if we have, maybe we got a clean sheet, but we didn't really have a very good game. You know, the other team didn't take any shots, we didn't get any saves, and we had a couple errors that led to shots, but they didn't punish us. It's still a guaranteed score. So the minimum that you can get is 60. Now, this doesn't really come into play with goalkeepers because goalkeepers don't have a lot that they can do to lose points. But you will see this come into play with defenders and midfielders and forwards. They can score a goal potentially and have a horrible game and have a -10 on all around score, but they're still going to get that 60. It's still a guaranteed score. This no right here means you can fall below it. So if we concede a goal and we don't have a really good game, we're still at 35 points. We can actually go lower than that, and we'll show you how we go lower than that here in a second. But this is the ladder you do. So say we have a clean sheet and we save a penalty during the game. So now our score is going to be a minimum of 70, and then we add on to that based on what we're going to do next here with the all-around score. So we're going to start out at a 70 and then just keep going up. You can't go any lower than a -1. So if your goalkeeper gets a red card, you're probably going to have somewhere around 15 points. I mean, they may or may not have made a few saves before that to get you a couple points, but realistically, it's probably not going to be a very good night. But 15 points, at least you're not at 0, and you can't go to negative. There is no -2 level, so you can't, you give up you concede a penalty and get a red card on the same play. I guess that would technically be two strikes against you, or 2 steps down the ladder. But there is no -2, so we don't got to worry about that. Next up, we're going to go to the all-around score. So all around, so really we're only worried about this column right here. This is the goalkeeper score column. So if our goalkeeper gets a yellow card, it's -3. Goalkeeper has an error that leads to a shot, that's going to be -5. That's not typical. You don't see very many errors that lead to shots from goalkeepers. You're talking about passing the ball out of the back to an offensive player who takes a shot. That's the kind of thing you're talking about. Doesn't happen very often, so we're not really too worried about that. Obviously, yellow cards don't happen too often either. Possession loss, that'll happen occasionally, but it's only 0.3 of a point. Doesn't really hurt us too much. Big chance created, doesn't really happen for goalkeepers, but it is there if they do happen to create a big chance. Attempted assist, same. If you have an assist that should have been a goal, but the guy didn't score, you at least get something for that. Accurate long balls, you get 0.2 of a point for that, but again, not really too worried about that. Shot on target, I don't think I've ever seen a goalkeeper take a shot on target outside of maybe a free kick. I've seen a couple goalkeepers take free kicks before. Penalty kick miss is -5. Big chance miss is -5, but again, those don't really happen. So here is the bread and butter of your goalkeeping score. All right, so if we get a save inside the box, 1 point. Good high claim is 1.2. Punches is 1.2. Diving save is worth 3 points. Diving catch, if you actually hold the ball, is 3.5 points. If we don't claim a cross, we're going to lose 5 points. A 6-second violation is when the goalkeeper is holding, like they collect the ball on a cross or something, and they're looking for someone to distribute it to. Generally, this only happens when you're wasting time. Technically, you're only allowed to hold the ball for 6 seconds. So if the referee deems that you're just holding onto the ball to waste time, they can give you a yellow card for that. That's called a 6-second violation. You don't see that very often. It does happen occasionally towards the end of some bigger games, but you'll actually get the -5 for the 6-second, and you'll get probably get the yellow card -3 as well. And then you have smothering, so that's 5 points, and then sweeper keeper down here is 5 points. So if you'll notice, I've gone over. That's all the scoring. That's it for a goalkeeper. That's all of the possible points that we can possibly get. If you'll notice, nowhere in here really does it say that we lose points for giving up a goal. If a goalkeeper gives up a goal, it doesn't technically count against them. Now, clean sheet, you get points for that. So if you give up your first goal, you kind of lose points because you don't get the clean sheet. And if you concede 3 or more, then you're going down. So you're kind of losing for that. But if you've given up 1 goal and you concede a second, it doesn't hurt you technically. There is no negative penalty for that. Or if God forbid your goalkeeper has given up 4 goals already and gives up a fifth, that doesn't hurt you either. You've already lost as many points as you're going to lose. So realistically, giving up goals is not really the way that we're measuring these goalkeepers. We are more focused on clean sheets and things like sweeping keeping. So things where the goalkeeper is coming off their line to participate in the play. So what I mean by that is like a good high claim. So cross comes in, goalkeeper comes off their line and catches the ball. That's 1.2 points. Punches, if a goalkeeper comes out, can't catch the ball, but he punches clear, same 1.2 points. If you're making a diving save, technically that does help you, 3 points and 3.5 points. But the bigger ones here are smother and keeper sweeper. So realistically, what we're looking for is not a shot stopping goalkeeper a la Bill Hamid. Realistically, what we're looking for is a sweeper keeper. We want somebody who is going to be that back line of defense who's actually going to come out and make defensive plays. Okay? So I'm going to show you a couple different guys. So first off, this is the stats, by the way, in case you were wondering. Through 3 games, this is the stats for the MLS goalkeepers. Now I have it sorted by sweeping keeping. This is accurate keeper sweeper here. So you can see Maxi Croteau is way better than anybody else in MLS as far as keeper sweeper. Pablo Cisnega is pretty decent at this as well. He has 3, and Yarborough is the only one with 2. Yarborough doesn't have a card though. So Cisnega and Croteau are the 2 goalkeepers that keeper sweep more than anybody else. And you can see also in punches, Croteau has 4, Cisnega has 3, so they're both in the top 5 there. Effective clearances, Croteau has 9, which is way more than anybody else. Cisnega, also in the top 5, has 4. Now these guys, so Croteau only has 1 clean sheet, and Cisnega only has 1 clean sheet. So that if they get a few more clean sheets, that'll definitely help them. But realistically, if you look at the saves, guy like Bond, he only has 1 sweeper keeper. Stuver, he doesn't have any sweeper keepers. He has 4 punches though, which is pretty good. But look at Andre Blake here. He's 4th in the league in saves. Does have a clean sheet to his name, which is helpful. But he doesn't have any sweeper keeper, doesn't have any punches, only has 2 clearances. So realistically, in real life, Andre Blake is by far the better goalkeeper. No arguments there. Andre Blake is by far the better goalkeeper over a guy like Croteau or over a guy like Pablo Cisnega. I'd much rather have Andre Blake than those 2 in real life. But in Sorare, I might rather have Croteau than Andre Blake, and you can kind of determine here for yourself. I'll show you. So this is Sorare data. I'll show you guys their last couple scores. So this is Maxi Croteau. So if you don't know, Maxi Croteau is the Canada national team goalkeeper. Broke his hand last year, so didn't play at all last year. But he's a beast. He's a stud. He comes off his line all the time. He's a great sweeper keeper. Vancouver loves to play that way. So you can see his scores here from the first 3 weeks. For goalkeeper, really, really solid, especially considering he only has the 1 shutout, right? They did shut out Portland in week 1, and he put up a 77. But they shipped 2 goals to Toronto, and he still put up a 55. Like at least for me, any goalkeeper that I have that can ship 2 goals and it still puts me up a 55 and still helps raise my average when most goalkeepers are going to bring down your average, I think that's worth. I think that's worth paying up to get him. And then you can see. So this is the all-around score here on this column. So you can see his worst all-around score so far is a 17. So right off the bat, he's getting 35 points for starting, and he's getting 17 points. He's getting 17 points just for doing the things he normally does: sweeping, keeping, punching, coming off his line. Even if he ships 2 goals, he's still putting up a 55, right? Now compare that with a guy like Andre Blake. Now Blake has been fantastic to start the year. So you can see, so he gave up 2 to New York City, and still did get a 52.2. So pretty solid score there. But that's because they had a red card, so New York City was throwing lots and lots and lots at them. he had a lot to do on the day. But realistically, look at this game. His all-around score was a 1. He just starts, he gets an all-around score of 1. That's a 36. So that's realistically what his floor is, right? So he gives up 2 goals, which realistically he could have only given up 1 goal and still probably had a 36. Now this game, I watched this. This was a Champions League game, and he absolutely stood on his head against Atlanta. I think he had 3 or 4 one-on-one saves from point-blank range. So he definitely deserved this 83.4. But that's kind of the outlier. You're going to see a lot more of these with Andre Blake. You're going to see more 60s than 80s, right? And remember, with Croteau, the 60 is pretty much the bottom of Croteau. And if he gets a shutout, then he's up in the 80s. Whereas with Blake, aside from this game, most of what you're going to see is this in the 60s here. And then his worst games are going to be in the 30-40 range. Okay? So that's what I'm talking about. In real life, Andre Blake is better than Maxi Croteau. It's close, but Blake is better. I'd rather have Blake on my team. But in this game, Maxi Croteau, I think, is a better goalkeeper. And look at the price difference. 770 ETH for Andre Blake for a 30-year-old goalkeeper. Now, that's pretty young for a goalkeeper, but he's still older. 0.770 ETH, which I don't know the conversion here. Hold on. I can see what the conversion is, though. So the last person who bought him paid $2,362. Compare that to Maxi, who's going for 0.375. Last person who bought him paid $1,200. Okay, so he's almost half price from Andre Blake, and you're getting, in my opinion, a better player. You're getting a player with a much higher ceiling, and in this case, I think anyway, you're getting a player with a higher floor, which is even better. See, even on his bad weeks, you know he's still going to score in that high 50 range. That's gold for this style of tournament. You're consistently going to be hitting rewards when your goalkeeper is beating every other goalkeeper out there every single week. You're just going to keep consistently winning rewards. Now take a look at a guy like Stefan Fry. So Stefan Fry, we can see his all-around scores. Now, this is a guy who's had 2 clean sheets already. Okay? He's had 2 clean sheets. He's shut out LA and he shut out Minnesota. But he didn't put up any points. His defense was so good in front of him that he didn't have any saves to make. Okay? So his all-around score here is 11.7. Now, when you combine that with a shutout, it's still a good 70 score. That's still a really good score. But you can see that's the highest he's been since the beginning of last year. Okay? So 72 is like the max with Stefan Fry. Because he doesn't get any of this. He doesn't come off his line. He doesn't keeper sweep. He doesn't punch. He doesn't do any of that. So he's not racking up points for the all-around score. Okay? Now, he does happen to have had 2 clean sheets, where the other 2 guys we've looked at have only had 1 clean sheet. So his scores look decently similar. But this, I would say, Stefan Fry is way behind the other 2 guys. And you're looking at Stefan Fry, who's actually more than Maxi Croteau right now. And Stefan Fry's 35 years old, so I don't know how many more years you're going to get out of Stefan Fry. So for my money, I'd much rather invest in a guy like Maxi Croteau, and I'll show you the price on Stefan Fry in dollars. So $1,145 was the last offer for Stefan Fry. So that's just the price of each one up, I think. But realistically, you're going to get Croteau at a lower price than you're going to get Stefan Fry. So realistically, that's where I'm saying the value is. You're looking for guys that come off their line. You're looking for guys that consistently punch, because those guys are going to have a higher floor just from starting games, and then you come off your line and punch a few times in the game, and you're at a 50, right? You have 1 sweeper keeper and 2 or 3 punches in a game, and you're at a 50. Whereas a guy that just makes saves from in the box, remember, go back to this. If a guy makes saves in the box, you can make 7 saves and have a wonderful game. If that's all you do, make 7 saves and start, and you ship 1 goal, you're at a 42. So I'd much rather have a sweeper keeper and, 2 punches, 3 punches, and all of a sudden we're up in the 50s and we're winning stuff, right? So that's kind of where the goalkeeper value lies, at least in my opinion. This sweeper keeper is definitely a big one to kind of keep an eye on. So, I mean, a guy like Manuel Neuer would be fantastic in this kind of system because he's off his line so much. Um, but just focus on MLS. I think Maxi Croteau is definitely the best example of sweeper keeper that we have in MLS, and then Cisnega would be the second. LAFC is going to play that up tempo, high press style, which means their goalkeeper is going to have to come out sometimes. So I would say those two guys are two to pay attention to just for the purposes of So Rare. Obviously, I'm not saying they're great in real life. I'm just saying for the purposes of So Rare, you're going to get so many more points out of these guys than you will out of a stud like Andre Blake. So that's going to be the wrap up for today. We're going to go through defense. We're going to go through midfield. We're going to go through forwards as well. But just for right now, I just wanted to go ahead and get the goalkeepers out here because they're pretty simple and it'll kind of give you a little bit of an introduction into the whole decisive score versus all-around score that I'm talking about. So we'll get more in depth with this kind of stuff at a later date. If you guys appreciate the video, please, it really helps me if you guys subscribe. It really does help me if you like the video as well. So please do those two things. I really appreciate you guys reaching out to me on Discord, on Twitter. You guys are really, really awesome. I have had a blast getting to know some of you guys over Discord. And I really hope to continue to grow with you guys and continue to get better and really make this a quality channel that can really help you guys succeed as well as help me succeed with my MLS team as well. So I really appreciate it. You guys have a fantastic night. Until the next time, Vamos United.